7:20 on Breakfast. We have some new figures out that should give the Labour Party a little confidence boost this morning. The party has been under attack over the issue of a capital gains tax, but a One News Colmar Brunton poll shows there's quite a bit of support for the idea. 58% of those polled say they would support a capital gains tax, 34% say they oppose it, and 8% say they didn't know. We are joined now by Ashley Church, the Property Institute CEO. Kia ora, good morning.
Good morning, Jack.
What do you make of those results?
Oh, look, I'm not surprised at the results, to be honest with you. There's a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's easy to support something when you don't know how it's necessarily going to affect you, so there's not a lot of detail around it at the moment. And secondly, I think that what the detail we do have indicates that it's going to be an impost on property investors and landlords, and so if you're not one of those, it's very easy to support something that's not actually going to affect you in the back.
Well, we know for sure it's not going to be a tax on the family home. And it's probably reasonable to assume that it's not going to be an 80% tax or something like that.
Yep.
So these are quite surprising figures.
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting, though, when you look at what is being proposed, when you look at what a capital gains tax actually does, and so let's think about what a capital gains tax is. It's a tax on the measurable increase in value of a property between what you acquired it for and what you on-sell it for some years later. There's been countless reports done in this country by Treasury, by a whole range of other organisations going right back to the 80s, talking about whether or not capital gains tax would be a fitting and worthy addition to the New Zealand tax system. And almost without exception, they've all come back with variations of the same result, which is to say capital gains tax would be a great addition to the New Zealand tax system, provided, real big caveat, provided it's a comprehensive tax and it's applied to everything. And there's a precedent for that, Jack. The precedent for that's GST when it was introduced in 1984. And when that came in, that was a comprehensive tax that was on everything. There were no exemptions, even though there's been attempts to introduce exemptions over the years. There are no exemptions to that. It's a pretty good system. It works well. And when the government of the day introduced it, which was Labour, they introduced it with a very good campaign that indicated exactly what the impact was going to be and what it was going to cost people in the back pocket. You can't do this sort of thing without doing the same thing. And if you're going to do it, it has to be a proper capital gains tax, not a tax which is aimed at penalising a particular section of the electorate.
That's a harder sell, though.
It is a harder sell, and that's why you're getting results of 58%, because at the moment we're basically saying, hey, all we're going to do is just punish the subset of taxpayers over here, but the rest of you are going to be left alone.
But of course there will be people watching saying that subset of taxpayers is in large part responsible for the housing crisis at the moment, for the insane cost of buying a property.
Oh, look, that's a big reach. I mean, there's a cycle to property in New Zealand that goes back since the early 70s.
I mean, there are all factors, right? We've got migration, we've got all sorts of things. But that is still a big part of it. I mean, you hear these stories of, investors with 9 or 10 rental properties, and there will be people watching now who say it's time those people pay capital gains when they're flipping properties.
Yeah, I mean, you could apply the same argument to those who push up share prices, but we're not proposing taxes on the sale of shares. You could make the same argument for increasing the value of the cost of buying a business, but we're not proposing that we tax people.
But the thing about housing, of course, is it's people's day-to-day life.
Yes,
over their head.
Yes, it is, and so people can understand that, which is why when it comes to the Colmar Brunton survey, that's an easy thing for people to understand because it's like something that they actually reside in themselves. But it doesn't change the fact that what we're proposing to do at the moment, and if this goes ahead in the form that Jacinda Ardern is indicating, is about punishing a subsection of taxpayers. It's not about introducing tax reform.
So would you support comprehensive capital gains? And I mean in the full context, as in taxing every single property, including the family home.
Let me be clear, no. I actually think capital gains taxes are woolly thinking for a whole range of reasons, so I don't agree with the outcomes of those tax groups that have worked on this in the past. But that's the advice that's come back. There's a couple of other reasons, but personally I don't support them. One of them is they're extremely unwieldy, depending on which form of capital gains tax you introduce. So there's lots of precedential evidence of that in other markets overseas. But the other one is they introduce something called double taxation, which basically says that not only are you taxing people on the rental income, but you're taxing them on the value of the asset as well. That breaks every principle of taxation worldwide.
Do you think if Labour introduces a capital gains tax of, say, 28 or 30%, it will become easier for first-home buyers in New Zealand to buy property?
Oh, no. It will make absolutely no difference, and that's not why they're proposing to do it. They're proposing to do it, as I say, to punish a group of taxpayers because that appeals to a section of their electorate and people that will vote for them.
All right. Thanks for your time this morning. As always, appreciate your insight. Ashley Church from the Property Institute.